The night air was thin and sharp, carrying every sound across the desert plains. The lone cowboy sat by his fire, hat pulled low, hands wrapped around a tin cup of black coffee. He heard it then, a howl, long and echoing. Not just one, a pack. His horse shifted uneasily. He rose slowly, hand resting on the grip of his rifle. Then came another sound, lighter, faster, the desperate running of bare feet against the dry ground. Out of the darkness burst a young Apache woman, her hair flying, breath ragged. Behind her, glinting eyes and low growls. Wolves. The cowboy didn't think. He moved. A single shot rang out, then another. Flames from the campfire cast monstrous shadows as the pack lunged. The woman stumbled, fell, and just as a wolf's jaw snapped inches from her arm, the cowboy swung his rifle like a club. The desert night became a battleground between man, beast, and fear. When the last wolf limped off into the dark, silence fell again. She looked up at him with wide, fierce eyes. In that single moment, something shifted. She sat wrapped in his old wool blanket, trembling but proud. Her name was Taya. She spoke it like a flame. The cowboy offered her water, but she refused to look weak. "You saved me," she finally said, her accent sharp and musical. Why? He didn't have an answer. Maybe because no one else should die out here alone. Maybe because the way she ran reminded him of someone long gone. Her gaze was unbroken. "In my tribe," she said slowly, "when a man saves a woman from death, he becomes hers." The cowboy froze, unsure if she was teasing or declaring law. But her tone was neither soft nor shy, it was a statement. The wind howled through the canyon as if carrying her words into the stars. She rose to her feet, still wrapped in his coat, and stepped closer. "You are mine now," she whispered. Something about her presence, wild, untamed, unsettled the quiet cowboy's world. By morning, the fire was ashes, and the desert stretched endless before them. He saddled his horse. She climbed up behind him without asking permission. Her arms wrapped around his waist, firm and sure. "What tribe?" he asked over the wind. "White Mesa," she replied. "They will come looking. But I will not go back." He didn't ask why. He could feel the truth in the way she held on, not with fear, but with will. Her people lived by old codes, and she had broken one tonight. They rode toward the far ridge, where the horizon burned gold. She told him stories of wolves, not just the beasts of the land but the men who wore their faces. "You saved me from them too," she said, voice like smoke. The cowboy didn't realize it yet, but he had just become part of a war he didn't understand. And she, the girl who called him hers, wasn't just a frightened runaway. She was the spark of something bigger. By dusk, they reached an abandoned ranch house, quiet, half swallowed by sand. He built a fire. She traced symbols in the dust. "In my world," she said, "a man who saves a woman binds their spirits." He laughed softly, shaking his head. "I don't belong to anyone." Her eyes narrowed, dark and bright. "Then why didn't you let me die?" The air thickened. She stepped closer, close enough for him to hear her heartbeat. "You don't understand," she whispered. "They'll come for me. And now, they'll come for you too." He stared at the flames. The wolves were only the beginning. Somewhere in the distance, a drumbeat echoed, or maybe it was only the wind. For the first time in years, the cowboy wasn't just surviving the desert. He was standing in the center of a storm. Night fell hard. The distant sound of horses and men crept closer. Taya stood beside him, head high, no longer the girl who ran, but the warrior who chose. "They'll take you," he warned. She shook her head. "No, I take you." Then, before the night could swallow their courage, she painted a single red line on his hand, the mark of her tribe. "This makes you mine," she said, voice fierce and steady. The cowboy didn't fight it. Maybe he never would. The fire roared, shadows danced, and somewhere out there, a pack of men approached. But tonight, they stood together, not as strangers, but as something older than fear. And when she repeated the words, "You're mine now," it didn't sound like a threat anymore. It sounded like fate.